Hi guys, and welcome to the Bridging Divides project. My name is Alfred and I'm a clothing and costume designer from London. Today's workshop is going to be on, wait for it, headpiece making. So headpieces are things that we normally use for Carnival, whether it be here in the UK or in the Caribbean or any other country. Headpieces literally just go on your head like this, play some music and you go running and dancing around. So this is what we'll be working on today. I'm going to show you guys how I reached this end goal with the feathers and the crystals and the diamantes. But before we get to that, I'm going to take you guys through the various materials that you will need for this project. Bearing in mind, you can use anything you want. You don't have to stick to what I have on my table right now. You can apply anything of your choice. So firstly, we've got some feathers around here, which are very colorful and give us that bounce and wow factor when dancing on our headpiece. We've got some coloring pencils, we've got some foil shapes, we've got some glitter, which can be messy, but we'll just leave that there. We've got some paint pots as well. We've got water to wash off our paintbrushes. Here are our paintbrushes. We've got a pencil just in case you need to mark out anything, and we've got scissors in case you need to cut. And then we've got a pot of glue with our glue stick when it comes to applying our feathers and our foil pieces. And then we have some lovely Diamante crystals, which I'm going to be using today as well for my headpiece. You can get these in a variety of sizes, styles, colors, shapes. So the world's your oyster when it comes to Diamante crystals. Or if you want, these ones you can in particularly get from like the pound store. If you want to go online, that's where you would find various shapes and sizes. And then we've got our paint palette, which I will be using today. They do come dry, so I'll show you how to kind of lubricate them and get them to be a bit more wet and moist. And then we've got some ribbons as well, which we'll be also using on our headpiece. So that's all the materials that we'll be using for today. And let's get straight into this video. So just to show you what I've done again, this is what we're going to be doing today. So it does involve painting, gluing, mainly painting and gluing. So it is a bit time consuming, but again, take your time, don't rush. There is no rush. Leave enough time to get this done to the best of your ability as well, because you want to be happy with it at the end of the day. So let's get straight into it. We're going to start with painting with our palette. So I've got three, you don't have to have three paintbrushes, but I've got three different paintbrushes and I use them for different reasons. This one has a flat tip. I don't know if you guys can see that. That's easier for doing like covering big spaces. This one I use for mixing. Remember I told you earlier I'm going to show you how to get the paint from dry to wet. And this is what I use to apply in small, fine spaces. So I'm going to use this first. You get some water, dip it into some water, put into your desired color, and literally just mix around until it's nice and wet. Because we're starting with this color, I'm just going to go ahead and start applying the yellow to my headpiece. Put this back in there, let that soak. So my flat tip brush, just dab a bit and literally just brush. Now on this headpiece in particular, you can follow the specific like design on it and color it in blocks, like you know how you used to do in like coloring books. You can choose to do that, or if you have an idea of your own, you can literally just bypass all of them, which is what I'm doing to a degree. And just keep covering all your spaces. Now paint can be messy, so be as careful as you can. Don't worry if you do make a mistake. Just grab a piece of tissue and just wipe off, like for example you see here I've got a bit smudging out, although I'm going to colour it in that area. You can get a bit of tissue and just wipe it in, but I'm going to be colouring that area, so I'll be fine. So yeah, when it comes to painting, especially when paint dries, you cannot kind of rectify and fix any dried mistakes. So it's very important to think before you start painting and kind of know what direction you want to go in terms of making your mask. But for the purpose of today, I'm going to be showing you how I achieved my prior mask. So literally take your time, don't rush. I know some people don't have still hands. In case you don't, if that does bother you, then feel free to ask for help. Get someone involved, get someone to work with you, or you can work with someone else. Okay, I'm gonna get a bit messy on the edge because I'm gonna cover up the edge anyway. If you're not, then be very careful. But if you are gonna cover your edge, then feel free to be as messy as you want in that area. So you can get different paints from anywhere, pretty much. The pound store, your local corner shop that does sell a variety of different like arts and crafts material. Or you can go online as well. So like I said at the beginning of this video, this is a longer process because it's paint and you're working with kind of fine lines as well. And you can see how light the yellow was coming up on my headpiece. In case, if you want it to be darker, then just wait for it to dry and then apply a second coat. As I'm painting, or as you're painting, you can use this time to kind of think, what do I want my headpiece to look like? What's my end goal? What's the finished product that I want to achieve? And you can also think of the colors that you want to incorporate. This is if you haven't done it prior, which I advise you do prior, but in case you just want to roll with the punches, then feel free to just improvise as you go. But again, remember, if you make a mistake, you can wipe it off with tissue whilst it's wet. If it dries, then you have to stick with it, or you have to improvise and make it work. When you're covering a large amount of area, I would advise starting with a light paint, because when you go to do the finer details, you can use a darker paint and it can help to cover up any like smudges or errors you've made. Whereas if you start with a dark color, which you can, you don't have to, if you do make a mistake and like you smudge over the line, then you choose to use a lighter color to apply detail, it makes it harder to disguise the mistake, the smudge over the line. When you have larger areas to work with, it's so much easier and better. Again, you don't have to use the same headpiece I'm using. If you want, you can create it yourself or get someone to create one for you. So all you'd need is like a piece of A3 paper or 2 A4 pieces of paper. Draw your design and cut it out before you start decorating. That way you have like a blank, flat canvas which you could do anything on. So you can choose to draw squares or draw some swirls, absolutely anything of your choice. Be careful so I don't get on the table. So just keep going. No one should get tired. It's straightforward, it's easy, just like you used to do in school, or if you're still in school like you currently do in school. or like you do at home for those who are home a lot of the time. Okay, I think that's a good enough coverage. We're now going to wash our brush off, give it a bit of stir, a little stir in the water. I can leave that. Now, the detailing on this headpiece, they're very fine. So I'm gonna move on to my fine paintbrush. In case you don't have a fine paintbrush, this same one, which will be included in the starter pack we'll be handing out, you could just use the edge of it. It has a little peak at the corner, which you can still use to apply detail. So I'm gonna go ahead and go back to my stirring brush and stir in that green. And I get my fine paintbrush. And just carefully and slowly apply your chosen color. In the original one of this headpiece that I made, I didn't use glitter, but I'm gravitating towards using glitter just to show you guys how to use it. Glitter can be messy. Oops, got some paint on my finger. Glitter can be messy, but you just have to be really careful, and I'll show you how to use that as well when applying glitter. If you have no control, then you don't. You're just gonna have to clean up after yourself. But if you do, you just need to follow the steps that I will show you in a little while. So I'm trying to be as careful as possible. Don't worry if you don't get it perfect. Sometimes with art and craftsmanship and creativity, there is no perfect. What you like might not be what everyone else likes. What you like might be what someone else might like. So just keep going. I'm sticking to green to fill in all these spaces in per shape, but feel free to mix up your colors. You can do it multicolored. You can start off with green, then add a red, add a pink, add a blue. Make it as different as you want. You do not have to follow what I'm doing. You're free to use any colors that you choose to use, sorry. Okay, we're almost there. Just got a few more to do. And once this is done, we can go on to the next step. Going back to the glitter, I'm going to use the glitter, but I'm going to use it in a small area so we don't create a lot of mess here today. But at home, in the comfort of your own home, you can be as messy as you want, but just make sure you clean up after yourself. This paint doesn't take long to dry as well, which is a good thing, because then you can easily just move on to the next step once it's all dried up. So literally as you're painting, it dries. but every paint works differently. I don't know if you can see my hand shaking, but it's trying to keep the paintbrush within the lines. If you can't, that's a bonus to me. Oh yes, one more to do. Okay, now if you notice, I have not colored in the top here because that is where our feathers are going to be applied. So you don't need to. If you want to, you can color it in if you choose to, but you wouldn't need to because it's going to be covered anyway. Okay, leave that to wash out in there. Okay. So the next color we're going to use is purple. Ooh. This one you can go back to using your flat brush because I'm just going to paint over, because afterwards I'm going to insert the diamantes into the little circles. If you don't choose to add the diamantes, you could just cover it in the designated area and then color in the circles in a different color. Again, I think I'm going to go back to my fine tipped brush. Again, you can use any color of your choice. You don't have to stick to the colors that I'm using. Okay, we're almost there in terms of color. Also remember to cover up your tables so you don't get your surfaces messy. You can use, you can buy like plastic sheets, or you can use a bin bag, for example, or if you've got an old kind of bed sheet or something that you don't need or you don't really require at home, you can also use that to cover your surfaces. Or a typical one that we use is newspapers. They're free at your local station. Pick one up, cover up your table, and then it's easier to clear up afterwards as well, because all you need to do is just rip it off and literally grab everything in one and chuck it in the bin. Made a mess there. It is really hard to stay still when tackling smaller areas. But remember, take your time. There is no rush. Because at the end of the day, you want to be happy with what you produced. Okay. I have used a lot of paint in this, especially this one here. But it doesn't matter. Once it dries, we can proceed to the next step. So we're gonna put that aside to dry for a bit, and then when we come back, we're going to move on to the next step. I'm gonna show you how to apply glitter onto your headpieces or any surface, and then we would incorporate our rhinestones, and we also put on our ribbon before we get to the final stage, which is the feathers on the top and the foil pieces. Okay, now that we're back, we've given some time for our paint to dry. Like I said before, I'm going to show you guys how to use a bit of the glitter. Oh, see, they're flying around already. Okay, this doesn't want me to use it. Oh, there we go. Okay, now that we've given time for our headpiece to dry, we're now going to apply some glitter. So you're going to need your PVA glue and your glue stick. Also, importantly, put a piece of card or paper underneath, and I'm going to show you why you need to do that when it comes to cleaning up glitter. So we're going to grab a bit. Yeah, so as you're placing the glue in your designated area, just depending on how much you want to put on, increase the space. That's why I'm swelling the glue stick around, just so I get a bigger coverage of the area. And once this is done, let's put this away. You're now going to get your glitter, any color, and then just carefully tap, cover the area. So you don't need to throw it everywhere, just in the area you choose to cover. And then, let me just close this so we don't create any further mess. You're just going to lift it up onto your card or paper and then let it all drop off. Now, the aim of having the card or paper, preferably paper, because paper is a bit more flexible when it comes to folding. Now you get your paper into one straight line. And get it all into the best of your ability. And now we have a glittery table. So that's perfect. And glitter all over my hands. All right, going back to our headpiece. We've applied some glitter, giving it a bit of shimmer. But I want to apply more shimmer and bling to it. So here is where our Diamante Rhinestones come in. I'm going to be using the yellow and the clear Diamantes. These are very easy to apply on. You can get these from your pound store. They come on a strip of glue, and all you have to do is literally pop it apart. And stick in. It's as easy as that. You can get some that don't come with a sticky back. You can also use your PVA glue to apply them as well. Or you have hot fix ones, but they require like an iron. But we don't need to do this for, we don't need to use that for this. That's mainly when you're doing like clothing, applying these rhinestones to clothing. So we're gonna get these yellow stones in between our purple. Here's a mess at the end. You see how easy it is to just apply them? No worries. Cool, all stuck on. And we're now gonna move on to our clear. Set, follow the same procedure. You can stick these anywhere you want, absolutely anywhere. I'm going to stick to just the yellow and the clear, but if you're feeling very blingy, you can literally stick it everywhere. And feel free again to be as creative as you want. Creativity has no limit, and the world is your oyster. Okay, we're almost there. Finito. So now we're going to apply our ribbon. Now again, because this area is blank where the feathers are going to go, you don't have to use the ribbon all the way around. You can literally start just above the line and then work your way all the way around. So we're gonna go back to our PVA glue, and then we're just gonna carefully apply it to our edge. Once you apply the ribbon, this should then make the edges look a bit more neater. Because remember earlier on, whilst we were painting, I did say don't worry about going past the edge or making the edge look rough, because you can cover it up if you choose to cover it up. If you're not going to cover it up with glitter or ribbon or diamante, then you then have to be very careful and neat. So we just get our ribbon, literally stick it down. and you can do these in sections just so it doesn't get messy. So it does take time because we're using PVA. I'm gonna get that done, and when I return, we're gonna move on to the next step, which is playing with these lovely colorful feathers. Okay, now that we're back, I've finished applying the ribbon all around my headpiece, and we've waited some time for it to dry. So our next step is going to be application of the feathers. So again, we're gonna go back to our PVA glue, and you're just gonna you're gonna get a huge amount and just smother it everywhere over your designated area, of course, not all over your headpiece. Yeah, just take your time with the glue, cover it up as much as you can. Yeah. Okay, we're still gonna need some glue, but for now, just gonna put that to the side. And here's where we go crazy with our colorful feathers. Now, I like to cut the stalk off just because it just gets in the way. And when I apply the feather on, I like the glue to sit underneath the strands, the little fine strands as well. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Again, when using young kids, when using scissors, please be careful if you're allowed to use it, or if not, please be accompanied by your parents or a legal guardian. It's important to be safe. We don't want you guys to hurt yourself. Yeah, so once you've cut off all your stalks, we would then go on to applying the feathers onto our headpiece. Now, you can be as random as you want with this, or you could have some sort of color kind of combo direction. So I'm going to start by applying orange to my corners. You can push down on the strands as well into the glue so it holds pretty well. And then you go back to your glue and just apply a bit more just over the feather. That's for when you add in the next color. You want that glue to properly get into the strands because it helps to keep the feather up. If you just glue just the stalk, potentially it will drop off, unless you're using like a hot glue. Let's get our blue in there. Again, go back to the glue and just apply over the strands for your next color. Okay, I'm going to use yellow. Good thing about using PVA is that you can take them off and readjust your pieces, your feathers. So I'm just going to stick to those, and then we're going to introduce some more fluffier feathers. In case, an important thing as well, in case you don't have access to feathers or you don't like feathers, I know some people are scared of feathers just because of how they float in the air and stuff, or how they move, or the feeling and the texture. You can actually draw a feather out on a piece of paper or card and just cut it out and then stick it onto your headpiece. It doesn't have to be this type of feathers. Let's get some more out there. Okay, so get some glue. Probably get it in there, into those grooves. And then literally pick whichever feather you want and stick it in. Just get some red in here. You see how full it's getting? Let's use purple. Oh, it is a sticky process. Again, back to our glue, just to make sure it's proper secured in when it dries. And then we stick that on. So you can now put your mask aside and wait a while for it to dry before you move on to the next step. Or you could move on to the next step, which would be the application of the 4 pieces, because you're applying glue to that as well. So it makes sense to just do it all at once. So we're gonna pick out some shapes. Actually, firstly, let's just move all our feathers, create a clearer view of our work station. And yes, we're going to move on to our 4 pieces. Now with these 4 pieces, you could stick them down as they are, or you could choose to be a bit different. Cut them into shapes, which is what I'm going to show you how to do in a minute. Let's get some shapes out here. There's so much to choose from, so it's quite difficult. If you're like me, who likes for things to look kind of asymmetric to each other, then it makes it difficult. Whereas if you just want to be wild, then literally go wild, pick up any color, stick it on, and you wouldn't have no problem in that department. So where I say you can be as creative as you want, I've got like a heart-shaped 4-piece here, which you can see there. I'm actually going to cut that in half. So when gluing on, I didn't necessarily want hearts on the headpiece, but then when you cut it the heart in half, it creates a shape of itself. It's good to like mix colors as well, but still be asymmetric. Okay, so I'm going to start with, I'm missing a heart. Yep, got a silver heart here. So start with, let's say, now I've organized my colors, so when it comes to applying, it's easy to just pick up and stick. So we're going to start with our silver. Just apply like a good amount onto it. And then press down. And then you do the other side. And press down. And then you grab your next color. And do the exact same thing. And press down. Same with the opposite side. Again, you don't have to use these 4 pieces, you can use anything. If you choose to just throw maybe glitter all over your feathers, then you could do that as well. Or if you want, you could get some colored paper or colored card and create your own fancy shapes and stick them on. Okay, and just keep going. Apply a fair amount of glue. And then stick down. Ensure that you press down a bit as well, just so the glue kind of gets in to the feathers and possibly connects with the glue behind the feathers as well. Let's keep it. And then we're just going to continue this process until we get to our desired spot. Okay, and then gonna have one in the center. Okay, before I put that one on, I need to get this shape in. I'm just following what I've made prior, which is the headpiece here. So we are looking at the detail at the top and down there as well. Okay, And then the final step is to apply the last two. Which is at the bottom. And then we're just going to close it off with a star. Yeah, it looks like this one wants to give me trouble. But yeah, once it dries a bit, it becomes a bit more tacky, and then it will hold down. So as it's drying, give it some time, and whilst it's drying, just carefully just reapply pressure onto your pieces, just to ensure they're stuck in your designated area. And that is it. Let's see if I can lift this up. I know you do have to wait for it to dry before you do lift it up, but yeah, I think we're good. Maybe. Yeah, so far. So that is our finished product, which goes in line with the one, well, similar to the one I'd done prior. I'm happy with this, and I hope you guys at home as well. I hope you're happy with what you're doing so far and what you're about to accomplish. If you would like, if you're on social media, feel free to upload your pictures of your headpiece and tag us on Instagram at UKON Careers. If you're not on social media, feel free to email us in your images, the images of your headpiece, at info@ukoncareers.com. We look forward to seeing your pictures, and we will be responding to you guys as well. Thank you guys for taking time out to get involved in this headpiece making workshop. This is the Bridging Divide project. Have an amazing day and keep your creative juices flowing.